Hello, our guest today on Faces of the Main Line is Leslie Holt. Leslie is the founder and CEO of A Child's Light. Hello, I'm John Ricciuti from MainlineTV.org, and welcome to the show. Leslie, hello. Thank you for coming back. I know you've been here before. We discussed another issue, but you have a program that we want to talk about, amongst other things. But tell me about yourself first. How did you get involved in A Child's Light?
So first, John, it's so good to see you, and thank you so much for having me and A Child's Light on. So A Child's Light is a program that I founded to get children who have been sexually assaulted and physically abused the mental health treatment that they need. And we do that by not just talking about it, not by prevention and education. We do it by actually paying for private trauma-informed mental health treatment, so that as soon as children start to, show at-risk behaviors, we work with teachers, of course, parents, grandparents, guardians, kinship families, and as soon as the kids start to show any kind of, upsetting, disturbing behaviors, we get them into therapy. And we also endeavor, which I don't think anyone does this, to keep them in therapy for a year in light of the trauma that they have experienced. They're probably going to, and we hope that they will get therapy for the rest of their lives. But what we do is get them the best therapy right out of the gate. And the parents never have to be concerned about the payment.
The parents, I guess that remains, I want to get to you too as well. But you touched on something does it remain anonymous with the parents? Are the parents a part of their problem? Sometimes,
well, sometimes, and child therapy really is family therapy. And so, we want the parents as involved as we can get them. And, most of the parents, honestly, that come find A Child's Light either through the school, through, police detectives. We have kids referred to us through all different channels. No, it's not anonymous. We want the parents engaged. And thank heavens, the parents that we work with, and grandparents and all of them, they really want to be involved.
I read somewhere that, and I know you're on Facebook, and we'll get to that as well, that you went to Villanova in their College of Professional Studies. Shout out for Villanova.
Yeah, wonderful, amazing school. I got my certification as a recovery specialist. And I did that during my time as working as a victim's a victim's advocate, because what I heard was from parents of little victims. They were all seeking a solution for their psychological pain. And so the parents were calling for help for their children, but in talking to them, they would sometimes mention that they were self-medicating themselves. And it was because of their trauma, and now their kids are traumatized by sexual assault. And so everyone in the family dynamic, or a lot of people in the family dynamic, are looking for a solution to dull that psychological pain. And so they're using whatever. And so I thought that it would be just something else just to, give me a better understanding as far as what parents could do to help themselves and also to prepare their kids to not use any substances. And so A Child's Light, I started this actually as really a prevention program.
This is it here.
Because our thinking, our belief, and it's not my belief. This is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Dr. Vincent Folletti.
Yes.
He is amazing, and he did the ACEs study. And so what he draws direct correlations between sexual assault and substance use.
You called it which study?
The ACEs study.
ACES?
Yeah. And so that's actually in the brochure. And so you can take the quiz, and it's very interesting and insightful.
You have your own personal story, your own personal initiative. Can you
I do.
You okay to talk?
Yeah.
It involves Lana?
So Lana, my daughter, was sorry. I'm going to pull it together. So Lana, my daughter, was sexually assaulted when she was 14. My husband and I were away for the night, and a neighbor, who she had known since she was 14 years old, came into our home. First he bought she and a little friend alcohol, encouraged her to drink, took her little friend home, drove him home. He was supposed to spend the night, and unbeknownst to my son, this person sneaked back into our house after Lana had gone to bed, sneaked into her room, which he knew our house. We trusted this person implicitly. We took this person on vacation with us. He was in our home every single day. And so he knew it wasn't hard for him to get up to her room. He went into her room, he raped her, and she never told us. And the reason we believe that she didn't tell us is because she was drinking, and she thought that she would get in trouble. And in my work as a victim's advocate, and now with the Child's Light, I can't tell you, I hear that story over and over and over again. And so my husband and I, of course, we did everything that we possibly could. But it was when we were trying to help Lana, trauma-informed therapy was not kind of a thing. Now it's everywhere, and it's so normalized, and people talk about it. And if you want to find a therapist, you look for a trauma-informed therapist, or you hope that that the therapist is going to look at most issues that a child is exhibiting through a trauma-informed lens. We did not have that experience. And so Lana started, she started drinking, smoking cigarettes, which is really a first. People think smoking cigarettes is very innocuous, and it's not, because nicotine is a very powerful drug. Yeah. And you get relief from that. And so she started smoking cigarettes, she started drinking, and she started smoking weed. And so my husband and I said, there's something going on here. We sent her to the best rehab that we could afford, which at the time was Karen Renaissance in Florida. She went. She was there for 3 months, and as they were preparing her to leave, one of the therapists called us and said, during a family meeting, Lana disclosed that she was raped, and she's minimizing this. And that was the first time that we had ever heard it.
You're thinking all along that it was something else.
Yeah.
That your daughter was going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then ultimately you found out that it was a neighbor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That's how we found out. But here's the thing. She was on her way out of rehab, and probably, hindsight being 2020, now, of course, I know she should have stayed longer. They should have worked on the trauma instead of opening that Pandora's box of trauma and saying, okay, you can go now. That's not really helping someone. And so, but unfortunately, because Lana started self-medicating at really a pretty young age, post the rape, at 14, and I might add that it was someone who was 5 years older than she was. Her brain was primed.
Sure, got rewired.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. So the trauma rewired it, then the solution, which was taking something to self-medicate, rewired her brain, and so there you go. So that's between, and then also she contracted an illness, and she had Lyme disease. So she also had physical pain along with the psychological pain. And through it all, she got an education. She went to Westchester. She graduated. She went to Harcum because she decided she wanted to be a vet nurse, and she did. She got a job at the University of Pennsylvania, and but then the pain, the physical pain started to come back, because that's a tough job, and the pain, the psychological pain, the physical pain, and she started using substances again. And what she thought she was getting, she did not get. She was living with us because she asked to, she was living by herself. She asked to move back into our home. And she was taking what she thought was methadone for the pain, because a lot of people that have Lyme disease, they don't talk about it, but they take methadone. Lana thought that she was getting methadone, and what she got was something that even pretty seasoned professionals in around substance use are unaware of, and the substance is called 3-methylfentanyl. Oh. They don't even test it on animals. There's no need. They know what's going to happen. It isn't that you overdose and you survive. There's no surviving. And that's what she was given. It was pure, completely pure.
She was buying, obviously, off the street.
Yes. And she and I had a discussion, and I said, you cannot do this. I know, because I hear this every day, honey, you cannot buy anything off the street anymore. Maybe that was fine back in the 80s. No, you can't do this now. So we were looking for a place where she could get methadone. And in just that short amount of time. And that's all it takes is just, and we lost her. And so that's the reason for a Child's Light.
Amongst Child's Light, in honor of Lana, do you still do the Love for Lana and the coach in Kensington?
Well, we try. Yeah, we try. This year was an odd year. We didn't get a lot of donations, but so we didn't get down to Kensington, and I have to tell you, I had a lot of people tell me, don't go into the city this year. It's not safe. That doesn't bother me at all. But,
no, I do know that. I know you're a brave person, and you and I actually did a mission. And Kensington, I think, is probably as bad or worse than when my partner and I produced the Kensington in Crisis film. So it's unfortunate. It's a disease that's not going away. And as you pointed out, the street drugs now are much more stronger than what kids were using, and COVID hasn't helped. And, my question to you was going to be, do you think the kids have been the biggest victim of COVID?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. So before COVID, and I started A Child's Light during COVID, probably we were up and operational, and I was on Zoom calls and making appointments and going places, and then 2 weeks in, COVID happened. So everything became virtual. So that was an interesting and new business model. But COVID, and it's still, unfortunately, it is still having such a huge effect on kids, on their anxiety. And so what do kids do when they're anxious? And what do kids do when they're in a situation where they're actually locked in with someone who is abusing them? And that did happen. I mean, we'd be in denial if we thought that it didn't. No, there were kids that were locked in with their abusers. And where are those kids? Because here's a statistic, and I love statistics. Only 12% of children will ever disclose that they were sexually abused. 12%. And the average age of disclosure is 52 years old. So these people that you see that have drinking problems, have drug problems, no one bothers to look, well, some people do, into their past. And is there trauma? I mean, now we do a lot more because of the ACEs study. But people that have been sexually abused are 26 times more likely to use hard drugs to self-medicate. 26 more times.
I recently read, as a result of COVID as well, this is a statistic I read very recently, that the IQ amongst students is lower than it was 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Because kids were in lockdown, essentially.
Yeah, I believe that.
And I was told recently by an alcohol counselor that we had on here, someone that there's a rise in drug use amongst kids, and there's a rise in alcohol abuse amongst kids. Yeah, they're really struggling. And I talk to, as you would imagine, I talk to teachers, I talk to guidance counselor, prevention specialists all day long, because we work with just about every school district in Chester County. And they tell me that the kids are unable to concentrate. They're unable to self-regulate. It's hard to keep a class under control. And apparently now, with the older kids, the seniors in high school, they're just saying, just push them along. Just graduate them. They're totally behind, both academically and emotionally. Just keep them going. And this is what teachers are telling me. There's no economic boundaries to these issues, are there?
No. I mean, the thing is, John, in our case with Lana, we were able to get her to, and she wanted help, to go to a great rehab. But these kids that don't have that support system, they get nothing. And that's true. They get nothing. And then we expect for them to go out into the world and get jobs and do well in school and contribute to society. Let me just tell you, I just have to tell you a quick story.
It's your show.
So, thanks. So we had this wonderful little girl. She was in the foster care system. She went in when she was 6 years old. Everything bad that could happen to this baby did, because at 6 years old, she's a baby. So she started, she was about 17 years old, and she was getting ready to age out. She was living with a foster family. She was really struggling, as you would imagine, because she's aging out. She's got all this past trauma. And the family was like, oh, when you're 18, it's good if you go. She wasn't really going to school anymore. She had a guardian ad litem, which is, an attorney that speaks for her. The guardian ad litem called me and she said, verbatim, the county won't pay for this. She doesn't want to go back to just regular talk therapy. She wants to do equine therapy. I know that you're not going to pay for it either. And after I heard her story and the abuse that she suffered, I said, oh, this is a challenge. I'm gonna figure this out. I found a farm who does this specific program, and it's called the Stable Moments Program. It is amazing. This little girl committed to go every Saturday for 10 months, which is a huge commitment for a kid. I mean, she knew pretty much that she was going to be required to do this, and so she did. Her plan was, before she went, when she aged out, she was going to go on disability, on welfare, all the social things that she could get. After 10 months, which a child's late paid for, she finished her high school education. She's been accepted to a college. She is in the ROTC, and she has a job. And the best thing, her interpersonal relationships have improved to the point that her foster family just said to her, you know what, we want you to stay. We want you to stay. And when you're ready to go, you can. She had that all the time in her. And all it took was a small amount of money for her to get this specific therapy that we funded. It changed her life. It just took a little bit of an investment. Otherwise, she would have gone on welfare. Or maybe she would have started using. Maybe she would have ended up in jail because she'd be stealing so that she could pay for a habit. Yeah. Now this child is going to college, and she's a contributing, wonderful little part of our community.
It's called the Stable Moments Program?
Yeah.
And their initiative is just for children like you just described?
Yeah, and it's wonderful for kids that have been in the foster care system.
Do you go out and speak to groups?
I do. If I'm asked, I'll speak to anyone about this because because someone needs to talk about this.
Do you think people are reluctant to talk about issues?
Oh, yes, because this isn't a happy subject. You're talking about kids who are raped. Well, nobody wants to talk about it or hear about that. Me, I think that we have to.
It really just goes undisclosed about how many children are sexually abused, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so sad. It's just so sad.
Is everything you're involved in on social media?
It is.
You're like on Twitter and.
Well, I'm not on Twitter.
Okay.
but
You're on Instagram.
Instagram
And you're on
Facebook.
Facebook.
Yes.
And people can find you.
Yes. And anybody can go on to our website.
Are you limited to just Chester County?
No. So I started this as a Chester County project, of course, because that's where our family has lived for 30 some years. But we have, we're branching out, because here's the reason, John, we're being pulled into different counties, because all of the counties throughout the U.S. are struggling to meet the needs of this tsunami of children that are in pain, real psychological pain. The demand is huge. There could be 10 child's light, and it really would just be touching the tip of the iceberg.
Are you also work with boys?
Yes.
Yes, that
Yes.
were abused. Oh, you know my question. That have been abused by the clergy.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? We'll
I was thinking of that 52-year-old guy. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
The 52.
Yeah, because I actually worked with, interviewed an attorney who was representing a lot of, and I think that there's a lot of abuse, drug abuse, as a result of those bad experiences as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you know what, Vincent Folletti, Dr. Folletti, it draws such clear parallels to substance abuse and trauma, and it is interesting how sometimes that's downplayed, and it's a shame, because when people go to a rehab, it's that I think maybe it's changed a lot now, but trauma is not. And of course, first we have to get the addiction or whatever it is, whatever's going on there, the substance use, under control. But the real crux of why people are there in the rehab is because they have found a solution for their pain. That's what it is. This is their solution. Mm-hmm. And you're asking people to give that up. And if that's the only relief that a person can get, that it's to have someone go to rehab really for even 90 days. When you think about it, that's really not sufficient.
Some of it's even 27 or 20,
yes.
7 or 8 days.
Yes.
If insurance companies can cut it down. We only got a couple minutes.
Yep.
I want to ask you about your fundraiser on May 1st. It's my birthday, by the way.
May 1st. What was it?
May 1st is my birthday. You have a fundraiser coming up.
No, we have a little. We have a dine and donate and that's coming up at Savannah. In
Savannah on
Bistro. No, down in Kennett Square.
Okay.
And if you've never been, it's amazing. And so that is this Thursday night, and they're very generous. They do it all day, and they do it if you just go to the bar and you have a drink. Yes, the proceeds go to a child's light.
It's a constant thing too, just trying to raise money for you had this. You have this one piece where somebody adopts a child, kind of. They adopt them,
Sponsor a child.
Yeah, sponsor a child for therapy.
Well, and I have to tell you, the reason that I did that, and this is something new, is because we just recently, and to go back to your question about boys, we just recently got a referral, we 3 referrals for 3 little boys who have been sexually abused between the ages of 8 and 12 years old. Those boys are going to need therapy for a long time. The one little boy was violently abused. And so I thought that maybe because it's hard for people to volunteer with us, because
Disclosures.
And we're not with the kids. We're not. We're like the liaison. We make the link and cut the check to get the therapist, who we now have about 80 throughout the county, throughout Chester County, some in Montgomery, some in Delco, Berks. So we have about 80 therapists in the Child Slate Provider Network that are dedicated professionals and take a financial hit by working on sliding scale with us to make sure that these kids get what they need. But these little boys in particular, I got 3 referrals, all 3 of them in one day. The phone calls and emails never stop. They never stop.
Your email, we have your email address. So also, you're okay with posting that?
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anything I missed? Because we've run out of time.
Okay.
Well, you're always welcome back. Did we cover everything?
I think we did.
With Leslie Holt, CEO and founder of A Child's Light. Make sure you go online and check it out. She does wonderful things to help people in memory of her daughter, Lana. With Leslie Holt, this is John Ricciuti. Thank you, and I hope you found the show educational and informative.